This is Todd Shults, and this is my ePortfolio video review. The Candidate Info tab had some of my personal and professional goals, which all pretty much related back to education or being a leader. I wanted to make sure that I covered some bases here in the professional goals, where I looked at my skills and what I needed to improve on in technology, developing quality relationships, and also staying current with the things that are out there for me to grow my staff as leaders as well. The other thing that I thought was a professional goal was just actually passing my tests and obtaining my licensure for the building level administration. On the personal goals, I wanted to make sure that I increased my balance between work and home, and we'll talk more about that later, how that became really apparent to me throughout this coursework. Obtaining a job closer to home, and strengthening my organizational skills, which is something I always look forward to doing so I can be more efficient and more effective for my students and staff. And kind of a fun one, personal goal, I want to go to Yellowstone National Park, maybe as a little reward for doing this course. My leadership philosophy is something that I adapted and changed as I did this coursework, and I did some more observations. I noticed the big thing was that leadership is not an action. It's an action, not a position, rather. And what that started to mean to me was I'm not just a building principal, a building assistant principal. My actions all day long, every day, are what make me a quality leader. So in my leadership position, I sort of leaned on the shoulders of the people that I've looked up to my whole life as good administrators when I was a student, also good administrators that I've had as I've been in the professional side of things. I've tried to absorb some of those qualities and use them for the betterment of my skills. I found that I was both autocratic and transformational in the leadership attributes. The autocratic side of me says that everybody's got the personal responsibility for their behavior and for their work ethic, and that I expect them to do both of those and heighten their skills, and that I'm very firm and fair in dealing with kids. The transformational side of me said that this is more of a personal growth in the ability to relate to people personally and have a little bit of fluidity at times and be able to make those adjustments. So I thought those were two very good qualities to link together for me. The program of study, I enjoyed being able to fill this out and then refer back to it to plan financially for my family, to plan time and management of my time, when I would take courses and when I would be taking and finishing this degree. And I appreciated the university's flexibility, as one of the classes I'd planned out didn't work out in the time I put it down. So I just bumped it to a different portion of the semester, and it worked out with no problems. My resume is fully up to date, and I think it's aesthetically pleasing. I think it's easy to follow, and it points out my strong attributes and my strong experiences, and it's easy for someone to look at this and get a very broad picture of what I'm capable of based on my previous experience. I list some teaching experience. I also list some related teaching experience that maybe doesn't have something to do directly with the school I teach at, but does pertain. And then I listed applicable experience, which I think is good for people to see that you're more well-rounded than just a teacher. You have skills in other areas. You have experience in other areas, working with adults, working with special needs kids, working with younger and older kids. That is what my experience here shows. And some professional affiliations. The annotated bibliography, I got to admit, was pretty daunting when I first looked at the requirements, but as I went in and I found 10 sources to review, and I started reading those articles and those dissertations and those pieces of information, I found myself really being able to think and adjust some of my leadership stances based on the new information that I was gaining. So that was good. Just to highlight, the first one that I did was 7 ideas to teach students work ethic. And the reason I chose that one first is because it talked about what parents admitted that they aren't expecting the same exact level of work ethic out of their kids that they were expected to have as children, and how we as leaders in the school kind of bridge that gap and recognize today's work ethic as opposed to what we were used to as kids, and then some practical ideas to work that into the school setting for teachers and administrators. That was a great one. And referring to my professional goals, 6 strategies to help principals become technology leaders. That's one that I really enjoyed reading, and I'm going to certainly refer back to that one and help enhance my professional goal of becoming a technology leader. That offered some really good models and use of technology in schools, and allowed for, again, some practical purposes to be used within the school day. I have my comprehensive exam scheduled for May 8th at 5 o'clock, 1 week from today. Moving into the meat of all of this portfolio, my activities. On the district activities, I found myself working mostly with the district superintendent and assistant superintendent. I did also do some work with the school resource officer and the buildings and grounds department for our district, and maintenance departments. I thought that was all good experience for me to have. The one that stuck out in the district experience was the curriculum purchase under teaching and learning activities. I got to be a part of the social studies curriculum purchase from the ground up, so I got to attend some meetings. I got to see, outside of my discipline in my area, what it is that teachers are wanting and how to best fit those needs with the curriculum that we purchase. And I learned exactly how much curriculum costs in a district. That was very scary. Moving through, some of the other ones that were fun was being on a district leadership team, being able to build our school calendar for voting, and that was another one that I really enjoyed. Moving into my elementary activities, I worked with the elementary principal here at my school for the majority of these, and the ones that stuck out to me are the coursework, actually. I think the district and city life coursework and the understanding communities and visionary leadership assignments that I did directly relate to vision and goals and collaborating with key stakeholders throughout the community of the school and the town to be able to sort of give a broad understanding to the community and a detailed application within the school of how we can use community resources. And I think that's something that I can carry on to any school I teach in and do this sort of markup of the community and be able to understand better what the needs are. I really enjoyed that. And I also enjoyed this poverty simulation that we did as an administrative shadowing. We decided that as a district leadership team that we had a lot of needs within the community that were not being met. And first there needed to be an awareness by the staff about the students' needs and the families' needs. So we brought in an organization that puts on an entire sort of drama that you're a part of. It's sort of like those murder mysteries where you get to be a part of the action. So we all were assigned a family. We all were assigned certain attributes and things that we were capable of and not capable of, financial responsibilities in the family, and having things come home from school with the kids that were in the acting that showed exactly what poverty might look like in our community and how we can better respond to that. Activities. I wanted to point out this is where I spent the bulk of my time doing observations and substitute administrators. So I'll go through each one of these so there's a great understanding of that. The teaching and learning activities, I spent quite a few hours attending student events, performances, dramas, plays, musicals, also athletic events. And what I gained from this was it's so neat to see the kids using their talents in a multiple variety of ways. And for them to see me at these events, it really helped strengthen those relationships with those kids. But the home events that we hosted, and even some away events were nice to be a part of. The managing organizational systems and safety, what I chose to do with this one, school safety is my top priority as a school administrator, or will be, and I thought that it was important to shadow the SRO, and he and I worked on a sort of crisis management plan for home basketball games because there is such a large crowd in a small area indoors. We felt that that was the best place for us to look at the crisis management if there was an incident, an emergency situation, an active shooter, a tornado, a bomb threat, anything of the sort. Community members aren't necessarily trained like our kids are to respond to that. So we put together a kind of a crisis management thing there, and we were able to implement that at all of our basketball games and have that stuff posted up. The collaborating with key stakeholders was one of my favorite things that I did because it kind of allowed me to interact with students, teachers, parents, community members, people even from outside our community that might come in to use our auditorium. I was sort of assigned this role as a semi-administrative role, and I was kind of the gatekeeper for the auditorium, in charge of running a schedule and keeping a calendar of anyone that needed to use it, and also being in charge of opening and closing setting up lights and sound and whatever needs were there for people using our district auditorium. So that was a lot of fun to be able to see all the different things that come through the school, and then plan all the building usage forms, plan all the facility forms, plan for custodial staff. That was something that gave me some real world experience as an administrator. The Category 5 ethics and integrity activities, I chose to use some of the activities that we did at Fort Hays and for the online coursework. And the reason I chose that was because I gained so much new information and was able to adapt my leadership philosophy and my stance on leadership and my role as a principal by going through these assignments. The person first language, understanding that the students, person needs to come before a disability or even before a positive attribute, listing the disabilities last as something that's not defining of that person. Equal rights, that was great for me because something that we're not, as teachers, taught a lot about is some of the school law things. And it was nice to be able to see all the different case studies and understand more about equal rights in the school and in the workplace. Religion in schools, something I think is a hot button issue right now. So it was nice to be able to glean some information on current law and current case studies revolving around religion in schools. Special education process and interviews, that was a nice assignment because it allowed me to look outside of what I don't normally do in the school day. I don't normally deal with special education students. If I do, they have maybe a para with them, so I'm not directly involved with all of their building of their IEPs or their 504s, but it is something that then I have to carry out within my classroom if those students have that, so I'm staying up with the legalities. That was kind of the nice stuff with the secondary activities. The last thing was Category 6, the education systems. Again, I used some assignments that had to do mainly with school law, and within that was the free public education laws through FERPA, and also the school laws, a presentation that we did for that. Building administration, just some hot button bullet points for me to remember as I take on a role that it's not only about keeping up legalities with special ed students, it's about HIPAA violations, HIPAA procedures, ADA compliance with the sports and concussion side of things. There's just a myriad of stuff that I learned from these assignments, so that was really, really nice. The activity form, I enjoyed being that it was digital, that I could go in and just click and add where I needed to, and I logged all of my activities, 6 for each level, and listed in the activity log or all of those. And I went through each category and I tried to choose as many of the elements as I could to cover as much as possible in the realm of administration. You can see that my hours exceed the 150, and I thought that was a nice representation of what an administrator might be required to do in a year or in a semester's time, that they have many hours away from home. And again, that ties back to my professional and personal goal of being able to balance my time between work and home. The administrative verification, those are here, and I did one from each level that I observed some things, and I enjoyed being able to see different administrators and their points of view and their procedures and how they handle situations as I shadowed and as I was a substitute administrator with them for the various events. So I look forward to seeing you guys on May 8th, and I appreciate all of the work that you guys have put into helping me become a better leader. Thank you.